Dorado, fabulous city of gold. The glittering lure that centuries ago drew ambitious men to the unknown land of South America. El Dorado. Many men sought its phantom riches. Most persistent of these were Pizarro and his lieutenant Ariana. They combed the Andes seeking the golden city, but El Dorado was always just ahead, just over the horizon. In December 1541, here in the country now called Ecuador, Pizarro made his camp. Short of supplies, he sent his lieutenant Oriano in search of food. On a crude raft, Oriano floated down an uncharted river. The river became larger and larger. Certain that so much water must somehow reach the sea, he drifted on through strange jungles inhabited by smooth-skinned, beardless warriors. These Oriano believed to be women. He called them Amazons, and thus the river got its name. After a journey of 8 months through unknown wilderness, Oriano finally reached the Atlantic, the first man to traverse the Amazon from the Andes to the sea. In the years that followed, other men came and explored the tributaries of the Amazon, seeking but never finding the golden city of El Dorado. Then came Padre de Acuna, a simple priest. Looking at the fertile soil beneath his feet, he saw something bigger than El Dorado, the vast wealth of the Amazon itself. This was the true El Dorado. With inspiration and vision, Padre de Acuna wrote, "The river has rich reward for all who will come. To the laborer, it offers a return for his work. To the merchant, employment. To the noble, honors. And to all mankind, a new frontier." 4 centuries of exploration have given us an accurate picture of South America, yet many parts of the Amazon basin are still unexplored. This is by far the largest river basin in the world. If we superimpose the map of the United States, we get an idea how tremendous this area is. The basin's vast wealth of natural resources is shared by 6 great nations: Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Bolivia, and Brazil. Physically, the Amazon basin is formed by the mighty uplift of the Andes on the west and by other mountain ranges to the north and south. Fed by an average rainfall of 80 inches per year, the Amazon discharges a flow of water 4 times greater than the Mississippi. The source of the Amazon, Lake Lauricocha in the Peruvian Andes, lies only 85 miles from the Pacific, and yet these waters flow east to the Atlantic, 3,800 miles away. However, a river as great as the Amazon cannot be said to originate in a single source. There are many sources. Picture these scenes repeated 1,000 times all around the vast perimeter of the Amazon basin. This was well understood centuries ago by Father de Acuna, for these are the words he wrote. "The Amazon gathers her waters wherever she finds them, be it melting snow or heavy dews, be it trickle, spring, or fountain. Each becomes a brook, each brook a stream, each stream a torrent, and these become a multitude of waters." And finally, after a tumultuous journey of 1,000 miles, the roaring torrents burst through the last barrier of foothills and roll on until they reach the floor of the great valley. Here, the typical Amazon forest begins. The torrents become mighty rivers, driving relentlessly on toward an endless horizon. The broad rivers join hands, and together they sweep on to become the Amazon, mightiest of all. Seen from above, the jungle is sullen and lifeless, yet within it's teeming with life in myriad forms, gay and colorful, strange and fascinating. Here is the botanist's paradise. Orchids grow wild and may be had for the picking. Flowers of every hue and variety are found in overwhelming abundance. To this riot of color is added the gorgeous plumage of the birds. for the jungle is literally alive with birds of 1,000 different species. Here, for instance, is the white-breasted toucan. Nosy little fellow, isn't he? And this is his cousin, the yellow-breasted toucan. Here is still another member of the toucan family. His scientific name is Selenidura gouldi. This is the Brazilian stork. These are the scarlet ibis. Well, what's this? A love affair. Oh, don't mind us. We were just passing by. The animal life of the Amazon is widely varied, too. Take this fellow, for instance, the three-toed sloth. Now, with those claws, he looks like a pretty tough customer, but actually, he eats only leaves. Had a bad night, too, didn't he? Well, let's move on. Let him go back to bed. This is the coati mundi, a member of the raccoon family. He's often tamed and kept as a pet. The giant tapir is distantly related to the horse. He's another vegetarian. The creatures who live in the waters of the Amazon are said to outnumber those of all other rivers combined. The freshwater otter is found here, and the electric eel, the fantastic ribbon fish that swims forward or backward with equal ease. And then there's the deadly piranha, so-called tiger of the Amazon. He hunts in packs, and is said that his powerful jaws can quickly strip the largest animal to the bone. There are people along the Amazon, too. Not a great many, perhaps, when you consider the vast size of this country. The basin could easily provide food and shelter for countless millions, and yet there's an average of only 2 inhabitants per square mile. To the river folk, the Amazon is a true friend and faithful servant. Here, life is peaceful and good, for the great river serves its children well, giving much, asking nothing in return. The love of music lives in the heart of every native. Even the remotest village has its little orchestra. Say, that looks like... Yep, it's Donald Duck. Another pioneer answers the call of the Amazon. The great river serves her children in many ways. She is the broad highway for their commerce. Large balsa rafts are the most common means of transport. On the long journey downstream, whole families live on them for weeks. And then when the market town is reached, the raft is broken up and its lumber sold along with the rest of the produce. 2/3 of the Amazon's entire population lives scattered along the fringes of the river. The other third lives in the widely separated villages and cities. Here, for instance, is the little city of Iquitos, tucked away in a remote corner of Peru. Although Iquitos is 2,300 miles from the Atlantic, ocean-going steamers dock here, while the Amazon is navigable across 3/4 of the continent. But let's stop here and pay the little city a visit. This is the Plaza de Armas, heart of the city's social and business life. Have you noticed that the walls of these buildings are practically covered with tile? They say most of it was imported from Spain a good many years ago. I thought it was about time we met some people in Iquitos. Well, here's a young fellow who seems mighty anxious to get into the movies. Yep, he's just itching to find out what this is all about. No, that's not a chip on the lady's shoulder. That's a marmoset. They say he's the smallest monkey in the world, only weighs about 3 ounces. And here, fresh from the jungle, is a little bundle of dynamite. We mean the kitten, of course. He's a baby ocelot. Full grown, he won't be quite so cuddly. Iquitos is mighty proud of its excellent school system. With a population of 35,000, the city's literacy rating is 80%. That's a very high average. And now we're looking down on the picturesque Malecon. This beautiful park is the people's tribute to the Amazon, the great river that links their city to the outside world. All year round, exports and imports flow across these floating steel docks, especially designed to rise and fall with the changing levels of the Amazon. And from the four corners of Peru, down 1,000 tributaries, comes all kinds of produce and raw materials to be gathered here at Iquitos and then shipped off again to the scattered ports of the world. By the way, this is a very interesting export they're unloading right now. It's the congealed latex of the lechicaspi tree. This product, like chicle, is used as a base for chewing gum. Lechicaspi can't be cleaned by machinery, so before it's packed for reshipment, all dirt particles must be removed by hand. The next thing is to break open the latex cylinders and give each one a thorough inspection. And then the product is packed in cedar boxes, ready for the next outbound ship. Most important of all the city's exports is barbasco. The plant grows wild in the jungle and is cultivated too. Only the roots are harvested. They're rich in rotenone. That's a drug used in the best grade of insect sprays, like the well-known flit, for instance. Today, barbasco means a livelihood to many people in Iquitos. Interest in the barbasco market runs so high that daily export figures are posted on a signboard in the public square. High on the list of important exports is the bark of the cinchona tree, from which quinine is made. The use of this miracle drug dates all the way back to the ancient Incas. They used quinine to combat fever. And today, quinine remains our most effective treatment for malaria. Many people have steady jobs in the local industries, like this button factory. Yes, these are buttons in the rough. Tagua nuts, the fruit of a species of palm. First job is to remove the tough outer shell of the nut. Mother keeps production moving all day long and works the swing shift, too. Yes, baby is happy and contented. And so is baby number 2, patiently waiting his turn to be rocked. You can see that working in Tagua is a family affair. Brother here is an expert already. They call Tagua vegetable ivory. Milky white, stone hard, the kernel of this nut makes the very finest kind of button. Tagua buttons absorb and hold dyes of all colors. They're tough and durable. And that's a very important point, for buttons, you know, are given a considerable responsibility. The Inter-American Public Health Service has a field base in Iquitos, too. This project, under government control, is supported by all the countries of the Amazon. Primary purpose of the public health program is to bring modern medical care to every corner of the basin. Remote communities are served by power launches, each a complete floating clinic. Notices are posted in the rural districts explaining how medical care may be obtained. A white flag displayed on the riverbank is the signal the doctor is needed. When a flag is sighted from the launch, the doctor comes ashore. It's as simple as that. The fine work of these river doctors is paying dividends in human life. Already, the infant mortality rate along the Amazon has shown a marked decline. The doctor's patients are always glad to cooperate. Well, there are exceptions. But then a doctor's life always has its ups and downs. Now, just hold still a minute, sonny. There, not so bad after all, is it? A mother will often show her gratitude with simple gifts. Yet it's the spirit behind these gifts that's the real payment to the tireless doctor of the Amazon. The river offers many interesting sights. Here, for instance, is a giant raft made entirely of mahogany logs. This timber will find journey's end at the sawmill in Astoria. Here, not far from Iquitos, is the largest mahogany and cedar mill in the world. Now, there are all kinds of mahogany, but But this Peruvian timber is known botanically as Sweetania, the finest species of mahogany in the world. Oddly enough, timber experts once believed that fine mahogany couldn't grow in the Amazon basin. Yet the Astoria Company has already exported millions of board feet of it, and there are countless wild trees still untouched. Expert lumbermen here at Astoria can estimate the value of a rough log almost to the penny. No, that's not the price. That's the catalog number. When the mahogany boards reach the lumber yard, they're graded and stacked in long racks to dry. It's this exposure to the sun that brings out the rich, deep color of the wood. Guiding genius behind this enterprise is Senor Carlos Bonilla. It was he who discovered Peruvian mahogany and gave it to the world. Through Bonilla's efforts, too, reforestation has begun. And these cultivated seedlings are the guarantee of fine furniture for the generations to come. To the east, Iquitos' nearest metropolitan neighbor is the Brazilian city of Manaus, 1,500 miles away and located in the very heart of the basin. Manaus lies several miles north of the main stream on the bank of the Rio Negro, one of the Amazon's larger tributaries. Here again is a paradox of the jungle, for Manaus, surrounded by tropical wilderness, is an up-to-the-minute 20th century community. They call this city the Pearl of the River, but let's browse around a little for ourselves and see if it's as beautiful as they say. Well, here's something you don't see every day, a plaza completely paved in mosaic tile. This, by the way, is called the Square of San Sebastian. You know, Manaus isn't by any means a small town. 100,000 people live here. Here's the Customs House, a fine example of the city's early architecture. And this imposing edifice is the Palace of Justice. In the background over there is the Manaus Cathedral. Here's something of an oddity, a clock tower right on the main boulevard. Across the plaza there is one of the most unusual buildings in all the Amazon basin, the Teatro Amazonas, better known as the Manaus Opera House. This beautiful theater in the very heart of the jungle has often been host to the world's finest concert artists. Incidentally, the total cost of this building was over $5 million. There are some excellent schools in Manaus. This one is a teacher's college. And here's a fine modern hospital. The Rio Negro Athletic Club is the swank meeting place for the city's smart set. In the public parks of Manaus are recreational facilities, free to all. Here in the residential section are the elaborate homes of a bygone year. And close beside them, in marked contrast, are the sleek, modern houses and apartments of today. Outside the city, men and machines push back the jungle to make way for a new airport. It'll be one of the largest in South America. Sometimes a jungle giant will stubbornly resist the encroachment of man. But it's a losing battle. A glance at the map shows how Manaus could easily become the hub for airborne commerce throughout the continent, immeasurably speeding up freight transportation throughout the basin. Here at Manaus is a large assembly camp where volunteer rubber workers gather from all over Brazil. It's part of the National Rubber Program to send these men into the jungle to gather latex from the basin's countless wild trees. Before the workers leave for the different districts, an elaborate outdoor ceremony is held, at which they are addressed by the governor of Amazonas, and later by His Grace the Bishop. Well, they're off. And these men, tireless in their search for more and more rubber to meet the ever-increasing demand, will long be remembered as the pioneers who did much to open the Amazon basin, the last frontier of the Americas. These rubber tappers are called seringueros. Their methods of tapping are very interesting, so let's watch this old-timer at work. The incisions made in the bark are just deep enough to draw the latex without injuring the tree itself. Doesn't look like much, does it? Yet these tiny trickles of raw latex, multiplied millions of times, are the lifeblood of one of the most vital industries in the world. When the latex of several trees has been collected, it's mixed with water to prevent premature coagulation. And now the seringuero sets up his small homemade processing plant. He uses the seeds of a palm tree to create a dense smoke, for rubber, like ham, is treated by smoking. The latex is worked on a stout pole. As each day's gathering is added, the ball grows steadily in size. When it becomes hard to handle, it's removed and the process starts all over again. Although freshly cured rubber has a very light color, exposure to the air and smoke soon turns the outer surface of the ball black. At Manaus, the rubber balls are cut apart for inspection and grading. Splitting the lively, bouncing rubber makes it a lot easier to handle, too. Pride of the city is Manaus' great harbor. Here is truly the heart and center of the basin's commercial life. Across these busy docks flows every product known to the jungle: rubber, cocoa, Brazil nuts, leather, skins, dried and salted fish, vegetable ivory, fruits, many kinds of lumber, and countless others. And speeding up the movement of this freight is the best of modern mechanical equipment, like this overhead cableway, for instance, which rapidly shuttles produce back and forth between the floating docks and the shore. But here's a young fellow who has his own ideas about transporting produce. Yes, these are familiar scenes on the Rio Negro, and its smooth, dark waters mirror the colorful river life with reflections of surpassing beauty. On the main stream, a few miles west of Manaus, the Brazilian government has set up an experimental agricultural colony known simply as Boa Vista. Still in its infancy, this project is tremendous in its scope. Here are 500,000 acres of fertile rolling land, the raw material for the great experiment. Already 80 families have settled here, but this is only the beginning. 4,000 more families are to come, and each is to be granted 63 acres of choice land, land on which to build their homes, land to farm, and to keep them free from want. The jungle falls back to make way for a model community. The ground has been broken, crops have been planted. And between the harvests, the jungle does its share to fill the human needs. For practically every kind of fruit and nut known to the basin grows wild on this vast colony tract. The mandioca plant is found here, staff of life throughout the basin. For its roots, ground into farina, have almost numberless uses. It's eaten, fried, or boiled. It's used to thicken soups or make a loaf of bread. Here, too, is cacao, the source of chocolate, and trees heavy with papaya, a delicious tropical fruit. These are andiroba trees, termite-proof and used for lumber in the colony. But the andiroba has a double value, for it also bears a nut rich in medicinal oil. The babassu palm supplies another oil-producing nut. Babassu oil is extremely valuable, excellent for cooking, illumination, lubrication. And here is the Brazil nut tree, source of one of the nation's leading exports, the rich, hard-shelled nut so familiar to us all. This dainty little tree is the saiba, from which kapok is made. Fools you, doesn't it? And sometimes, too, the natives use its roots to telegraph messages through the jungle. Here, chugging up the river, is the Manaus boat train. These river folks supply the city markets with all kinds of produce. And when market day is over, the boat train tows the small boats back home again, against the current. Towing fees are small, and it certainly beats rowing. Well, looks like somebody got left behind. Uh-oh, hey, wait for Junior. Belém is the largest commercial center in the basin, the port of entry and the major outlet for the vast storehouse of the inland regions. Supplying the port with Amazon's myriad products are countless river craft of every size and description. For these small boats, Belém reserves a special anchorage called the harbor of Veropeso. The waterfront here presents one of the most picturesque sights in the basin. But there's work to be done. And the cargo of the smallest boat plays a vital part in the commercial life of the port. The Amazon and its network of tributaries offers 16,000 miles of navigable water. Up and down these great highways throughout the basin's 2 million square miles flows an endless stream of commerce, exports and imports. The wealth of the river in exchange for the modern tools and household goods of the outside world. Here, the piers are of permanent maritime construction and will accommodate anything that floats, from the river steamers that ply the inland waters to the giant freighters that sail the broad Atlantic. But now it's time we left the waterfront and dropped in for a look at the city. And what a city it is, too, for 300,000 people live here. These have become familiar scenes to us now. The picturesque plazas, the modern buildings, hardly a surprise anymore. So while we're taking in the sights, let's talk about the weather. It's about the only surprise we have left. Yes, the climate throughout the length and breadth of the basin is far different than most people expect. The highest daytime temperatures rarely exceed 92 degrees. A lot more comfortable, you might say, than New York or Washington in the summer. This is the favorite haunt of the Belém playgoer, the Teatro de Paz, or Theater of Peace. And this is the Church of My Lady of Nazareth, remarkable for the beautiful artwork that graces its portals. Here at Belém, the Brazilian government has established an agricultural project that will affect the whole future of the basin, the Instituto Agronômico do Norte. 7,500 acres have been set aside for the purpose of research and experiment. With headquarters at Belém, the Institute has substations throughout the basin, and work is going forward on all the Amazon's products. Emphasis at present, however, is on rubber. Important in the Institute's rubber program is the instruction of children. Here, an expert explains the mysteries of leaf disease. Later, he demonstrates one of the approved processing methods. We see that the stout round pole of the seringueiro has disappeared to be replaced by a small, flat paddle. The raw latex is smoked just enough to congeal it thoroughly. The youngsters are allowed to try it for themselves. The use of a paddle here offers definite advantages over the old ball method of treating rubber. The paddle method prevents the mixing of the different grades of latex by permitting each batch to be treated separately. Furthermore, the latex may now be pressed into long, thin sheets, which greatly facilitates handling and shipping. The training of children in these scientific methods is of prime importance. For after all, this is the generation that holds the key to Amazon's future. This great fertile valley is the challenge and the hope of the new world, a paradise of riches beyond man's wildest dreams. What role will the Amazon play in the world of tomorrow? The answer comes echoing out of the past. To men who come prepared to accept its challenge, to overcome an arduous task, spare no effort, the Amazon offers unlimited opportunities. For them, Acuña's vision will at last take form. Key to the future is Amazon's soil, much of it deep and rich, a challenge to the technicians who will find means to develop it. Key to the future is Amazon's produce, and here indeed is the world's greatest storehouse of tropical products, within reach by air of every market on earth, a never-ending supply of these products for the new world that's to come. Key to the future is Amazon's water, thunderous and mighty, potential power for an empire in its headwaters, ready to be harnessed and put to work, ready to lighten man's labors, ready to bring him prosperity. Key to the Amazon's future is the sky above. Amazon awakens to the stir of wings, spinning propellers quicken its pulse. The jungle rolls back and runways take its place, crisscrossing the continent with a network of super airways that will annihilate distances. Key to the future is Amazon's plans. Plans for new buildings, cool and sanitary. Plans for a better world of tomorrow. Yes, the great river awakens, eager, ready for the touch of men with vision. To men who will accept the exciting challenge to pioneer, to work, and to build. This then is El Dorado, a true and lasting El Dorado.